Welcome to another World History 2 topic walkthrough, brought to you by Mr. Michael, Social Studies teacher. This video is here to help you fill out your lecture notes, understand the big ideas, and maybe even laugh once or twice. So grab your notes and let's get started.
Welcome to today's journey. Topic 1.3, Spain in the Americas. A story of gold, glory, and a whole lot of unintended consequences. We'll meet explorers, empires, and more than a few cultural collisions. Let's just say, things are about to get messy. Let's rewind to the late 1400s, when Spain and Portugal were racing to explore the unknown, all in the name of gold, glory, and God. These weren't just catchy slogans. Spain wanted new trade routes, wealth for the crown, power for its explorers, and the spread of Christianity. Enter Christopher Columbus, who set sail for Asia and instead landed in the Caribbean, where he met the Taino people. That meeting kicked off a chain of events that would reshape two continents. By looking at both the causes and the outcomes of these early voyages, we'll start to understand how Spain didn't just discover new lands. It built an empire, changed native societies, and left a legacy that shaped the modern Americas. Let's fast forward to the year 1700. Over 200 years after Columbus first made landfall in the Caribbean. Take a look at this map. What started as a few coastal settlements exploded into massive territorial claims. The purple areas? That's Spain's empire, stretching from modern-day California all the way down to Argentina and Chile. It's divided into two massive chunks, the Viceroyalty of New Spain in the north and the Viceroyalty of Peru in the south. You'll also spot Portugal and Brazil in green, France in parts of the Caribbean and Canada, and the British creeping in around the east coast of North America. But Spain clearly dominated the game, claiming the former lands of powerful empires like the Aztec and Inca, which you can also see labeled on the map. This map isn't just about borders. It shows how quickly European powers divided up an entire hemisphere, and how those claims set the stage for centuries of conflict, culture change, and colonial control. When Spain and Portugal launched their voyages in the 1400s and 1500s, they weren't doing it for fun. They were chasing the 3 Gs, gold, for their nation's wealth, glory, for personal fame and bragging rights, and God, to spread Christianity across the globe. That brings us to Columbus, who famously set sail for India, and totally missed. Instead, he landed in the Caribbean and met the Taino people. At first, there was friendly trade, but that relationship would quickly shift. And then there's Magellan, who gets meme-level credit for attempting the first voyage around the entire world. His crew succeeded, but Magellan himself? Not so much. He died before finishing the trip. Still, these early voyages weren't just impressive sailing feats. They were the opening moves in a massive wave of conquest, colonization, and cultural change that would reshape the Americas for centuries. When Hernán Cortés landed in Mexico, he wasn't there to sightsee. He famously claimed he suffered from a disease of the heart that only gold can cure. In other words, he came for one thing: wealth. But how did a few hundred Spaniards take down a powerful empire like the Aztecs? The answer lies in two deadly allies: disease and division. Smallpox and other European diseases devastated the Aztec population. On top of that, many indigenous groups teamed up with the Spanish, not because they loved Cortés, but because they hated the Aztecs. Harsh Aztec rule and demands for tribute pushed some rivals to switch sides. So yeah, that Fortnite meme? It's not wrong. For the Aztec Empire, the end was near. After the conquest, Spanish colonization didn't just take land. It destroyed Aztec temples, writings, and artifacts, wiping out huge parts of their culture. So here's something to think about. Why did some native groups decide to help the Spanish instead of resisting them? Next up, the Inca Empire, high in the Andes. At its peak, the Inca had an army of tens of thousands, a complex road system, and cities built into the mountains. So, how did 200 Spanish soldiers take it down? Francisco Pizarro led the charge, and his strategy was as ruthless as it was effective. First, he ambushed and kidnapped Atahualpa, the Incan emperor. Then, despite being outnumbered by about 30,000 to 1, the Spanish used surprise attacks, steel weapons, and, once again, alliances and disease to their advantage. But conquest wasn't just about winning battles. It was followed by plunder, stealing gold, silver, and anything valuable. Pizarro and his men looted cities, and in the process, Incan culture, structures, and traditions were lost or destroyed. So here's your reflection. How did plundering, more than just fighting, help erase Incan civilization? While Spain was busy conquering much of the Americas, Portugal had its eyes on one big prize: Brazil. Thanks to the Treaty of Tordesillas, Spain and Portugal basically drew a line down the globe and agreed to split the New World. Spain got most of the Americas, and Portugal claimed Brazil. But here's what's interesting. Unlike Spain, Portugal wasn't chasing Aztec or Inca-style gold. Instead, their focus was agriculture. Brazil's warm climate and fertile soil made it perfect for growing sugar, which quickly became a cash crop for the Portuguese. And to run those massive sugar plantations, they relied heavily on enslaved labor, especially from Africa. So here's a question for you. Why do you think Portugal focused on farming rather than gold in Brazil? While Spain struck gold in Mexico and Peru, their efforts in North America looked a little different. Here, the focus shifted from treasure to religion. Spanish priests and missionaries worked to convert Native Americans to Christianity, building missions, forts, and ranches across the region. These weren't just places of worship. They were centers for education, agriculture, and sometimes even military control. They became the heart of Spain's effort to reshape indigenous culture. And those changes ran deep. New languages, new religions, new ways of life, often forced on native communities. The result? A cultural transformation that still shapes regions like California, Texas, and the American Southwest today. Now think about this. What benefits do you think came from converting Native Americans? Not everyone went along quietly with Spanish colonization. Some clergy, like Bartolomé de las Casas, were horrified by how Native Americans were treated under the encomienda system, a system where Spanish colonists were given land and the right to force Native Americans to work it. Basically, it was slavery with extra steps. Las Casas originally supported the system, but changed his mind. Big time. He began to speak out against the abuse and instead proposed using enslaved Africans for labor, believing they would survive better under the conditions. That shift would have long-lasting consequences. But resistance didn't just come from inside the Spanish church. Native peoples fought back too. One powerful example? Popé's rebellion in New Mexico. In 1680, Popé led a successful revolt that pushed the Spanish out, at least for a while. It was a rare and powerful reminder that indigenous resistance was real. So let's think critically. What do you think happened when Las Casas began supporting African labor instead of native labor? So, what did we learn? Spain's exploration of the Americas wasn't just about finding new lands. It triggered massive cultural, political, and economic changes across two continents. From Columbus's first contact to the conquest of empires, the Spanish transformed indigenous worlds, often through violence, forced labor, and religious conversion. But it wasn't all one-sided. Native resistance, like Popé's rebellion, reminds us that indigenous peoples weren't just passive victims. They pushed back, adapted, and survived. Now here's your bonus question. How might the encomienda system and early missionary efforts have shaped modern Latin American societies, culturally, socially, or economically? Drop your answer in the comments. And don't forget to include your name for that sweet bonus point on the topic quiz. See you in the next video.